Good evening. I am Roberta Winters, President of the Radnor League of Women Voters. We were here tonight for two forums for the candidates running for Township Treasurer and the Board of Commissioners. Unfortunately, the Republican candidate for the Treasurer declined attending because of some potential future conflict. The Board of Commissioner candidates notified the League this afternoon that they would not attend. Their decision was due to a change in the manner in which tonight's forum was to have been conducted versus previous forums. Our standard format is to allow the candidates to present an opening statement, answer questions from the League, answer questions from the audience, and finish with a closing statement. The only change to this involved the manner in which the candidates were to have answered the League's questions. In previous forums, the candidates for all the wards were asked and responded to each question. Tonight, we had planned to pair the candidates for the wards to answer the questions and allow a longer period of discussion, up to 10 minutes per pair, for each of the two League questions. In addition, for the first time, the candidates were supplied the League questions in advance. This approach was selected to have a broad discussion regarding taxes and fees and the many major development and redevelopment proposals under consideration by the current Board of Commissioners. It was our intent to lay out each candidate's positions on these issues during the longer discussion period. The two League questions were as follows. It is obvious that the decisions to be made by the Board of Commissioners over the next several months regarding development and redevelopment could have a major transforming impact on the lives and property values of every Radnor resident. These decisions include options for the purchase of land at Adrossan and the development proposal that has been put forward, how the ordinance that waived most zoning restrictions on township-owned or controlled properties will be applied, the ordinance that Villanova's proposal for the development on the south parking lots that could be extended to other universities in the township, the ordinance that has been proposed for the development of the former Wyeth Laboratory Complex by Biomed that, if adopted, would apply to the other commercial properties on King of Prussia Road up to the R5 bridge, plus the Radnor Corporate Center. Much of this has been or will be accomplished by the use of ordinances rather than going through the traditional processes to receive waivers or zoning relief. In addition, the Villanova and Biomed ordinance changes are not in keeping with the comprehensive land use plan. What is your position on the use of this method by the township to bring about change and on these specific proposals? Our second question was, Radnor Township over time has not invested sufficient resources in its infrastructure and physical assets. Over the last few years, the Board of Commissioners has attempted to avoid increasing property taxes by shifting the cost of providing township services and maintaining township property assets. Radnor, user fees have been increased for parks, sports fields, trash removal, and costs associated with permits and inspections. Maintenance costs of the Kurtzberg Center have been shifted to Mainline School Night, which rents the facility from the township. A decision was made to lease the Willows Mansion to a third party, and a fee for the stormwater program is being considered. The township also faces significant underfunded staff retirement costs which have to be addressed. What options would you propose to pay for our current and future needs? In light of the change in tonight's program, it is still my pleasure to introduce our Voter Service Chair, Gayla McCluskey. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. We are disappointed that because we have only one party represented, that the league cannot allow the candidates to answer these questions. Our rules do not allow an empty seat debate. However, we have decided to allow the candidates who are in attendance to present their opening statements. We will begin with Bill Spengler, who is running against John Osborne, the incumbent treasurer. Both treasurer candidates were allotted 3 minutes for their opening statements. And we'll have Bill come up and read his statement, and we have a timekeeper in the first row that will keep you to your 3 minutes. She will say stop, and if you would please complete your thought, and then we'll move on.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the people of Radnor Township through this forum. In 1969, I was the first Democrat elected in the history of Radnor Township as commissioner. I was 28 years old. I woke up this year and I'm going to be 72. I am 72. And there are now 5 Democrats on the Board of Commissioners. So I decided to have the luxury to run for another office because I'm not the lone Democrat on the Board of Commissioners. The Democrats in the majority, and they're doing an outstanding job under the leadership of Elaine Schaefer. But last year, when we were talking about our home rule charter, the township put together the task of the treasurer. And there's not much to do here. The school district collects its own taxes. They pay the treasurer $2,100 for not collecting taxes, and the township really collects its own taxes without the direct involvement of the treasurer, though does have a few tasks. And we looked at this, and we decided, well, let's keep the treasurer's position because it's good to have a watchdog. But I decided to run because I think the job should be expanded. I think there's a lot more that the treasurer can do. It's not written in the charter, but working with the township manager and the finance director and the Board of Commissioners, we can expand the role of treasurer. I was a county commissioner for 8 years. One of the things we need in Radnor Township is a liaison with Delaware County government. I could certainly fill that role if that's what the commissioners and the manager and the director of finance want me to do. One of the big sources of income other than our property taxes is our business taxes. I think it would be helpful if the treasurer could work with the township staff to help identify businesses that should be paying that tax. We're about $340,000 delinquent in our sewer rentals. I think the treasurer could, assist in trying to collect those rentals. The treasurer issues tax certs, which he gets paid for. And the township issues sewer certs, and they'll also be issuing the stormwater fee certification when people sell their houses. I think the treasurer could do those jobs, and the township could get the money for the sewer rent and the other job. There's a lot that the township treasurer can do, but the bottom line is Bill Spengler has spent 60 years in Radnor Township, 32 years as elected official. I'd love to have an office in this building to serve the people of Radnor Township with their many problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spengler. We will now proceed with Diane Edbrill and Elaine Schaefer, who are candidates for the Board of Commissioners. Ms. Edbrill is running for the Ward 2 position versus Richard Booker, and Ms. Schaefer is an incumbent running against Albert Phelan in Ward 4. These candidates were allowed 2 minutes for an opening statement, and we'll start with Ms. Edbrill.
Thank you, Gayla, and other members of the League. My name is Diane Edbrill, and as Commissioner, I will be the most effective advocate for the 2nd Ward. When people ask why I'm running, I say that advancing my community is what I do. It's what I've always done, and I've got a lot of experience that will help me serve the 2nd Ward. I was an assistant DA in New York City for several years before moving to Radnor. Once my kids started elementary school here, I became the executive director of Ceasefire PA, a statewide gun violence prevention organization. I left that position to work for my family's business, and since 2008, I've managed all its legal and financial matters. I've been a trustee of the Radnor Educational Foundation and have volunteered for many other groups as well. Our township is under a lot of pressure these days, economic and environmental, much of it centered in the 2nd Ward. Zoning has become a moving target. We need an experienced leader who can work effectively with the rest of the board to protect and advance our interests. I've spoken out from this podium many times on crucial matters of township governance and have helped bring openness and accountability to Radnor in the process. I worked hard to shine a light on the misdeeds and poor oversight that took place years ago in this very building. Mine was the voice that persuaded the Board of Commissioners to amend the charter to allow just one member to put an important matter before the public so as to prevent that lone voice from being shut out. This has been my record so far, and I will do no less as Commissioner of the Second Ward. I will represent all my constituents' interests in that capacity. I'm not afraid to stand up for what I believe and for what matters to the people I represent. I won't play politics, I won't run away, and I won't let you down. I'm Diane Edbrill, and I'm asking for your support.
Thank you, Ms. Edbrill. And now we'll call on Ms. Schaefer.
Thank you to the League for organizing this, as always. I am running for re-election. I am currently the 4th Ward Commissioner. And before I was commissioner, I had over a decade of experience as a public servant in this community. I co-founded and ran the Radnor Conservancy. I served as a board member of the League of Women Voters and the Radnor Educational Foundation. I was PTO president of 2 of our schools. Since being elected to this position, I have worked just as hard on behalf of our community. And we have gotten a lot done in the last 4 years. When I came in 4 years ago, our township was in shambles. We had just gotten out of the whole Dave Bayshore debacle. We literally had no manager. We were deficit spending year after year, and our budgeting process was basically a sham. In the 4 years since I have been here, we have had 4 straight years of surpluses. We have hired an entirely new management staff. We have trimmed our staff from about 149 to 121. We have accounted for all of our long-term liabilities, and we have started to fund them. We have introduced a stormwater management ordinance, finally tackling that problem. We have introduced a deer management program, finally tackling that problem that has been really irking us for years. I'm really proud of the record that we have. We've worked really hard and brought this township a long way towards financial stability and moving forward and reinvesting in our community. And in the 4th Ward, I have really improved communication within the ward. I have a monthly email that goes out to all the residents who want it. I have regular town hall meetings. It's made a big difference in engagement in my ward, and I think that people really appreciate it. I'd like to serve for 4 more years, and I'd appreciate your support. And I would like to say I'm really disappointed tonight that my opponent didn't show up. I was really looking forward to debating him. And I'll conclude by saying, it feels a little bit like Washington, and we just don't need this in Radnor. We don't need this partisanship. So I would appreciate your support, and have a good night.
Thank you, Ms. Schaefer. I would like to remind the audience that are in attendance and those that are watching on television that we have a school board candidates forum scheduled for next Monday, October the 21st at 7 p.m. in this room. And some additional important dates that you should be aware of is that October the 29th is the last day to apply for a civilian absentee ballot. November the 1st is the last day for the County Board of Elections to receive your voted absentee ballot if you're unable to vote in the municipal election. And the municipal election will be November the 5th. So again, thank you all for attending, and be sure to vote.